Hi guys, welcome to lesson number 8 in our blues guitar course, and what we're now going to be doing is looking at the 5 shapes of the cage chord for dominant 7, okay? And cage chords is simply the idea of playing 5 shapes across the neck, so you cover every position, and this is going to allow us to really be quite free with how we play our 12-bar blues. Rather than stuck in one shape, one position, we're going to be all over the neck. So it's absolutely crucial learning, so pick up the guitar and let's get started. Hey guys, so if you're just tuning in, then do remember that you can head on over to the website to get all of the interactive tab, the fretboard diagrams, and the full write-ups for every single lesson. It looks great on the mobile, on the desktop, however you're viewing it. Head over there and we'll put the links in the description and in this video. Also, please do like and subscribe to this video if you're enjoying it so far and if you're enjoying the course, as well as leave us a comment. We make sure we get back to every single comment that you guys leave. All right then guys, so let's go through these 5 shapes. Now I would highly recommend knowing your 5 major cage chords before doing this. If you're just so into the blues that you just have to do this first, then go for it. It will be easier if you know the major cage chords. So I've linked within this video below and in the actual video and in the description on YouTube the actual chords, the actual course that you'll need to go through those cage chords. Okay, so it's good stuff. I would highly recommend doing it. But for now, what we're going to do is go through these chords, and we're going to do it in the key of G. So we'll do a bit of transposing later on when we come to the track, but we're going to do it in G, okay? So our first cage chord for major is there, and dominant is here, okay? So crucial things as you're learning cage chords is always know where your root note is. So root note is on the E string here. And that is our cage chord, and it's a bar chord, all right? So you bar that 3rd fret, and then where you'd normally just create a normal bar chord shape, I'm sure you guys know that, you just take your little finger away, and voila, you've got your dominant 7th cage chord. Now, the tricky bit here is getting that D string ringing out, but the D string is the most important. So I would really recommend trying to get that clear because that's your flat 7. And now we understand that. Without the flat 7, this just sounds like a major chord. This is a major chord. It's 1, 3, and 5. But with the flat 7, we bring it to a dominant chord. Okay. Now, I very rarely actually fret it like that. That's the basic kind of concept. But I would more commonly do this. Okay. So I encourage you to try this. If you don't like that, if you hate that barring thing, then try this, and you can do it in a couple of different ways. I'm just trying to think of a few. You know, if you really hate, you can do it in more like a jazz way. If you hate the thumb over the top, but you can kind of play around with this once you get the gist of it. But I would try and do it like this. So I'd flatten my first finger against the D, the G, and the B string, and put my thumb on the root in the low end. And then I'd bring my 2nd finger or 3rd finger, ideally 2nd finger, onto the 4th fret on the G string, okay? So I get, so I'm not playing anything on the A string and I'm not playing anything on the high E string. I've just got E string, D string, which is my flat 7. Then my major 3rd is this finger, and then the rest of my bar is the 5th. Or like I said, if you don't like that, then you can re-fret it so your fingers are in this order. Again, ignoring the A string and the E string. However you play it, that's your first position of the cage chord system. Okay, so you'd call it an E shape because it's based on this kind of open E. Okay, I'm not going to go into details about the cage chord system. That's what that other course is for. All right, so there's our first shape, and no, it's on the E string. Then if I go up an octave, so now the root note of G is on the D string. This is the cage chord, and this one you will probably know from the open D shape. This is one of the easier ones to play, I would say. And the way we're doing it is root note is on the 5th fret. Then you've got your 3rd finger, which is the 5th. Okay, that's on the 7th fret of the G string. Then you've got your flattened 7, which is here, which is on the 6th fret of the B string, and your major 3rd up top, which is on the 7th fret of the E string. Okay, so you'll see that one used a lot in blues, especially for turnarounds. Okay, it gets used a lot for that, but also just for so many things. You know, I really implore you to kind of go through each of these shapes. They've all got a slightly different sound, a different vibe, because the order of the notes are different. You're on a different register in terms of tonality on the guitar. So there's your first two. So you've got root, got the octave, and you've got yourself the D shape, okay? And it is important to kind of combine these two as well. So whenever you're playing that one, you can always just quickly jump up to that one. You'll see me do that a lot in this track. Now next up, we need to find our root note of G on the A string. So that's here. So that's the 10th fret, okay? And I'm gonna get you to put your third finger on that and fret this chord, okay? And this is your C shape, okay? So if you know the C shape major chord, it's like that. This is the dominant version. Another great chord shape that just must be known. And so essentially what I'm doing here is I've got my root, third, flat 7, 5th. I'm not touching the low E string or the high E string. So it's just the middle 4 strings. Okay, so I've got 10th fret, 9th fret, 10th fret, and 8th fret there, okay? And that's my next shape along. So where I've started from the root note of E, I've gone up to the D string. Now I'm on the A string, and I can attach that chord. I can also attach this chord, this kind of second bar chord shape. And I'll show you the official one, and then we can talk about how to kind of break that up if you don't like that official bar chording, like I don't really. But that first finger bars, okay, from the root note down, so in this case 10th fret, and your third finger is on the 12th fret of the D, and the little finger's on the 12th fret of the B string. Okay? And again, the reason I don't typically like using this one as a bar is because it's quite hard to get that note ringing out, and that's the flat 7. Okay. So that's the official, but instead I would probably play it something like this. So I'd just kind of bar those 3 strings, so the A, D, and G string, and then just play the other notes as they are. I don't need to be barring the high E string, the B string. So kind of play it a bit more like that. Okay? Or you can just take those 2 without the root, those 3 without the root, but that's something we'll talk about later on. But that's your next shape. That's officially called the A shape. Okay? So far, to summarize, we've got the E shape, which you octave up to get to the D shape. Then you find the root note on the A string for the C shape and the A shape. And we can attach to this one the G shape. So it's way easier to just combine it with this cage chord, okay? And the way to fret it is simply first finger flattens, okay? In this instance against the 12th fret, and then you add your third there, okay? So your flat 7th there, which is just 1 fret up, just on the high E string, okay? So we've got these really interesting groupings that I think are so important when you learn these chords. If you can find the root on the E string, so in this case G, you've got this cage chord, followed by these 2 go together beautifully. Then if you can find the root note on the A string, you've got the C shape, the A shape, and that little grouping there of the G shape. Okay? So this is how I would now put these together. So your first real challenge is to just learn those shapes. So that's obviously a given. You know, go away, learn these shapes. If you want to check them out on the fretboard diagrams, then either hit the website, or if you've downloaded the course, thank you very much. And you've got your ebook guide as well with that. Okay, so get those learned, and then do what I'm about to do. Okay, so you kind of group them in those little ways. So then I would start trying to think about different keys. So I'd then go, all right, well, what about in the key of A? Okay. Can you find your root note of A on the E string, and can you find it on the A string? So on the E string, the A root note is there. So with that, on the 5th fret, I can grab the E shape, and I can go straight up to that D shape. They go together. Okay, and what about the root note on the A string? So on the A string, I've got the A, so that's the 12th fret, and I can group the C shape, A shape, and G shape all together like that. Okay, makes sense? So you want to be trying to do that. Let's take one more key, shall we? Let's take the key of E. So now we kind of switch things around a little bit. Okay, so we've got the E on the open E string. Okay, and that's where you'd have your, your E7. Instead of the bar, you'd now just use the open E, and then you go up an octave to do your D shape. Okay, so E, E. Okay, there's an E. Okay, it can be a little bit more fiddly on the open strings, but with E, really, it's quite simple. And then we come up to the A string, E. So that's on the 8th fret, sorry, the 7th fret. And we're going to do the C shape, the A shape, and the G shape. Okay, so there we have it. That's how you can play the 5 caged chord shapes. That's my kind of tips and tricks on how to actually do it practically as well. So spend the time now trying to get those shapes learned, sounding very, very clear, making sure you know where the root note is within each shape, as well as ideally where the root, 3rd, 5th, and flat 7 is, just as I kind of talk through it. That's going to be really helpful going forward. And try and do it in various keys like that. Okay, so thank you so much for watching. Please do remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. We do our absolute best to answer every single comment. If you've got questions, here is the place to write them so that we can get back to you and really help you out with this stuff. If you want to carry on with this course and you're loving it, then you can find the next lesson right here, and you can start the whole thing. The whole playlist is here on YouTube as well. So click one of those 2 links and I'll see you in the next lesson.